Dying in DMZ sucks, doesn't it? I mean, we've all felt that pain of losing a 3-plate carrier, a full backpack of goodies, and 2 insured weapons. But it is an important part of the ecosystem of DMZ, and the game, really, this extraction shooter is built in such a way that you have to be able to recoup fast, to restock fast, to regain fast, whatever you want to call it, but you need to be able to bounce back from deaths very fast. This surely differs from other extraction shooters like Tarkov or Cycle the Frontier, where definitely deaths are far more punishing and getting back to the position where you were before is a far more grueling task. But nonetheless, it can seem daunting, especially as a solo player, to come back from a defeat and having to basically grind your way up to a full plate carrier, a full backpack, and everything else that you're looking for. Now, over the course of this video, specifically focused on MAZRAH, and a follow-up video specifically focused on Ashika Island, I'll share some general tips and tricks how you can regain as fast as possible, especially as a solo, but absolutely if you're in a group, the same thing. It's definitely just going to be a lot easier as a group, and we'll get you back up to speed as soon as possible so you can get back to doing your missions and killing some fools. So starting us off, 2 facts straight off the bat. First of all, Ashika Island in general is better for regaining faster. There's a couple of different reasons for this, but basically it just comes down to the fact that you have less players, meaning less chance to actually get ganked. You have much more options for where you can focus your attention on to actually get your loot back up again fast. And lastly, you also have far shorter distances to cover, as you can get dumped in sort of like outside areas of MAZRAH, and that makes getting to the places where you can gain some good loot a lot more difficult. Secondly, it goes without saying, but strongholds are always going to be really strong for you to get good gear back. Even with a 1-plate carrier, playing carefully, you can very easily clear out strongholds. And your biggest problem really with targeting strongholds is the fact that your position is broadcasted to other players on the map, and that of course means that they could potentially come and investigate, and especially if you're solo, this can be troublesome if you did not manage to get the upgrades that you wanted from a stronghold. Nonetheless, if you're able to fast clear strongholds, that would be the first thing that I would absolutely suggest you, because there's just a really good abundance of loot in these. You can often get your armor, your bag, and your guns upgraded from just one stronghold, so absolutely always keep that in mind. Now, looking at MAZRAH, the map itself, there's going to be 3 places which I'm going to be discussing today, 2 of them much more in depth than the first. The first one being actually just the airport. The airport's always been super strong. It was great in season 1, and it continues to be fairly decent in season 2. And where in season 1 you had a lot of contracts which kind of like culminated in those areas, this is not the case anymore in season 2. So something that I've absolutely noticed is far less people in this area, which means that if you spawn close to it or you're able to get to it within the first couple of minutes of a match, then generally this will be fantastic for you in terms of like upgrades and just getting your loot back on par. The second one I actually want to highlight is all the way up in MAZRAH City, and as we know, we have the US Embassy over there, which is a locked area which you need a specific key to get into. Or do you? Actually, if you look towards the map and you look a little bit north of the US Embassy, you have the Channel 7, building, which is another tall building in the city, which you can actually go up in to the top, and you'll have some windows which essentially face downwards towards the US Embassy. You can simply glide from here and land on the right side, the right upper side of the US Embassy, where you will find a lift which you can access, and that takes you down into the US Embassy itself. Now, this area sometimes spawns a huge amount of red crates, sometimes doesn't, but at the very least you will have a couple of boxes, just follow your ears, which you can most likely loot from here. And the best thing about this is you don't need a US Embassy key to get in here. So you will have some AI in here, of course, so you'll have to be fast on your feet and keep your head on a swivel, but you should be able to knock these dudes out. And even on the outside area of the US Embassy, you can often find additional red crates that can possibly help you regain. Then we have a personal favorite of mine, which is the shopping center in Said City, or as I refer to it, the mall. Now, this area was super popular in season 1 due to the fact that you had a box there, a dead drop, and so you would often find players sort of mulling around in this area, either finishing missions or waiting for people to come to that. That is not necessarily the case anymore in season 2. Yeah, you do sometimes still find players there, but the dead drop is not there anymore. So overall, we see less feet covering into this area, which means this area is ripe for the pickings. Now what you want to do is you want to gain entry into the shopping center, but this, once again, just like the US Embassy, is a locked area, but there are other ways in there. On the sides of the mall, there are vents that you can access by jumping onto a vehicle. But for me, honestly, the best way to just get into this mall is simply to go up the shopping center parking area right next to it and then cross over and simply drop down one of the vents in the roof. This will give you an opportunity to gain entry into the mall, and of course the inside is infested by tier 3 elites, but you can fight your way through them and follow your ears and you will find an abundance of red boxes in here. Specifically, if you go over the roof actually and go via the stairs down the back, then you'll actually be able to go down all the way to the bottom, and this is really where the decent, the awesome, the good loot is. So again, this is a phenomenal place to recoup, and as long as you can deal with a bunch of this AI, and due to the way how this place is built, you can often choke them out and you can kind of like gatekeep how many of them can push you at once. Don't rush in there, don't go apeshit, you know, build up some confidence, but work your way into the mall and you will be pleasantly surprised by the loot you can find in there. Last but not least, I want to give the villa in the south at Sarrif Bay a shout out. This area, more often than not, will spawn with a huge abundance of red chests that you can actually loot. So many, in fact, that this area is fantastic at carrying out not just one player, but multiples. If you spawn near this area, you absolutely need to come past here. Now, this isn't always going to be the case. Sometimes you will have no red chest spawns here, but in those cases, you often also will find a lot of valuables in the fridges and in the rooms in the area, which you can just drag to the nearest buy box and sell. That's not going to be as great as finding all of those red boxes there, but still you will be able to have quite a lucrative haul from there. Now, I do want to mention one other thing. This area oftentimes reinforces extremely aggressively with AI, so you do really want to get in, loot, and get out. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if there are other areas which you prefer on Al MAZRAH, where you like to go and stock up, where you like to go after you've taken a bad beat, someone's taken all your loot, and you need to regain so you can get back in the fight. But other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.